So as Saagar was saying, there has been just abject, unimaginable horror unfolding in Gaza at the hands of the Israelis. And we now actually have a whistleblower coming forward from that so-called Gaza Humanitarian Foundation. This individual is a 25-year U.S. military veteran who is sounding the alarm about the horrific ways that Palestinians are being treated there, who are, starving to death and desperately trying to seek any aid they can possibly get. Let's take a listen to a little bit of that.
You're a veteran of the United States Army who has been deployed to combat 12 times, 4 different wars. Never in my entire military career have I been a part of, allowed, or bystander to the use of force against unarmed innocent civilians. Ever. There is no fixing this. This needs to be put an end to it.
So this is from Israel's Channel 12. And in addition to what you heard there, he said that the aid centers treated the population very badly, put them in danger. He says, in all my years of service, I have never seen such use of force. He described an incident where an unarmed Palestinian was picking up food off the ground on his knees and was pepper sprayed by American guards with a full can of pepper spray. In another incident, he talked about a stun grenade being thrown and hitting a Palestinian woman directly. He says, quote, she collapsed, fell to the ground. That was the moment I knew I couldn't continue. In another incident, he says that Palestinians finished collecting the aid at the site. The American guards opened fire, shooting at them, at their legs, at the dirt mounds to force them to leave. He says, quote, you can't fix this. It has to stop. In all my military service, I have never seen such force used against unarmed civilians, and I will not be a part of it. So he is coming forward. And of course, we've seen some 1,000 plus Palestinians who have been massacred while simply trying to seek aid. It is as dystopian a situation as you could possibly imagine. In fact, it's beyond my imagination how dystopian it is. You are starving 2 million people to death. You have now daily multiple deaths of children and infants because they are being starved to death. And then you create this deadly Hunger Games situation in order to get any sort of aid. And it's not even the type of actual nutritious aid that you would want to provide in this circumstance, but people having to risk their lives and being fired upon with live fire on, again, a near daily basis in order to secure what little bit of provisions are available. It's absolutely unbelievable. And at the same time, we've got one of our members of Congress here, I can put C2 up on the screen. This is Randy Fine, who is quote tweeting an ABC News article here about how 15 people, including 4 children, have been starved to death in just the last 24 hours. And he quote tweets that and says, release the hostages, until then, starve away. Then in parentheses, he says, this is all a lie anyway. It amazes me the media continues to regurgitate Muslim terror propaganda. Now, where is the media freak out over this? Oh, I forgot. They're too busy writing their 5,000th piece about what Zoran Mamdani thinks about the phrase globalize the intifada. Where's the censure from Congress over this? Oh, I forgot. They're too busy concerned about, what was it, Rashida Tlaib saying, from the river to the sea. Mm-hmm. It's just unbelievable that you have a member of Congress who is saying, genocide these people effectively. That's what that means, starve away. And it just is an accepted part of the discourse.
Well, there's a lot going on in that tweet because it's not happening. But if it were happening, it's good that it's happening. And so which is it, Congressman? I mean, look, we can make all the fat jokes and all that stuff aside, but I think just what is happening is so horrific. Just the images, the conduct, the lies, and now at this point, the complicity. You have to ask, what possible reason are we putting up with this for? Every day, every hour, every second is all underwritten by the United States of America. Mm-hmm. For what possible purpose? RFK Jr. has not put out a personal tweet in months on any of the subject, and he just responded to a article that's written, I'm a war scholar. There's no genocide in Gaza. And he writes, the genocide charge is a blood libel.
Oh my God.
Thank you, Major Smith, for withering. So it's
oh my God.
He reared his ugly head for what reason? Look, I don't know what it is. All right, it could be blackmail. I think it's probably just like a deep ideological. I have no idea, but this psychopathy, it runs deep at this point. And at a certain point, we just all have to look at this and be like, this is unconscionable, unbelievable, it's evil. And like the way that they get away with it and then have their defenders in our country tell us it's an anti-Semitic blood libel for mentioning, it's too much.
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
No.
it has to break us forever from the chains of all of this anti-Semitism industrial complex,
Yeah.
because they don't care about that. They're using it as a cover to literally murder little children and women and starve them to death, to lure them to food, and to gun them down with impunity. And that's the other thing that I think really divides this from some of the earlier conduct of the war, because they always had, at that time, the excuse was what? It's all because of Hamas, they're using them as human. There's nothing about that right now,
Yeah.
right? You already leveled the whole place. You're attacking the last city, and you're starving these people to death by your own admission, literally by your own admission.
Yeah.
There's no getting around this. I don't know, man. This is dark stuff.
It is
dark.
as dark as
It's
it
not.
gets. And
It's,
you,
yeah,
and you
that,
can't.
that doesn't even give the the proper picture, right? Of to say dark is almost like, oh, it's dark when something bad. It's like, no, man. Like this is a whole other.
It
level.
recalls
Yeah.
the greatest horrors in history. I mean, you can't see those images of those skeletal dead babies and not think about Auschwitz. You can't look at those images and not be reminded of the greatest failures and horrors of humanity of the past. And, you know, I mean, this is where people who want to dismiss the Epstein story, like, sorry to tie it back to that, but is the reason that we're cool with this, is it because they have some sort of a blackmail on the President of the United States or RFK Jr. or whoever? Like, why would you allow this to persist? It is... humanity will not be the same in the wake of this. And, you know, everybody who said starve away, who justified this, they're going to have to answer in the history books, but that's cold comfort to Palestinians who are starving to death literally right now today as we speak. Of course, the Israeli government, and this is going to be C5 guys, they claim that there is no famine in Gaza, that this is all just lies.
It's propaganda.
And that us even talking about this is, quote unquote, playing into the hands of Hamas. Let's go ahead and take a listen to this.
This idea of famine and starvation has been thrown at us consistently on a weekly basis for the last 2 years now. It has never come to pass. So these are false warnings which come from these aid organizations. And I also would say that where there is hunger in Gaza, it is hunger orchestrated by Hamas. This is very clearly their tactic, and it is working, because Hamas seeks to put international pressure, which unfortunately too many international countries are too willing to follow suit on, to put pressure on Israel to support their negotiating tactics, stopping them initiating or agreeing to a hostage release pause. So this pressure, which is coming, talking about starvation and famine, this is simply playing into Hamas's hands. Where there is hunger, it is hunger orchestrated by Hamas. It is hunger created by the terrorist organization.
Hunger orchestrated by Hamas. Like, who believes this shit? How do people like this sleep at night? Truly, truly. And he says, oh, we've been hearing this for 2 years now. Yeah, because the defense minister, Yoav Gallant, on October 9th, announced, I have ordered a complete siege on the Gaza Strip. There will be no electricity, no food, no fuel. Everything is closed. We are fighting human animals and we are acting accordingly. That was on October 9th. Now, at times, aid has been delivered. This is the most dire right now that it has ever been. Right now, there is truly a complete siege. And the only aid that anyone really has access to is through this Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, where you go and you might get a bag of flour or you might be murdered by the IDF. I mean, it is just unreal that anyone could claim otherwise at this point, and that this is allowed to persist. At the same time, you know, it's easy to lose sight of what's happening in the West Bank, where there's been also extraordinary escalation of violence. and annexing and stealing of land. They just took a significant vote in the Knesset with regard to annexing the West Bank. Let's go ahead and take a listen to that.
There are two things that you need to know about this. One, the vote doesn't actually do anything. It's a non-binding motion. It has no legal power. And the reason they did it is to unite the Israeli right around something that they agree on, because they've been fighting for a very long time over whether to conscript the ultra-Orthodox community into the army. So it makes for nice headlines, but it doesn't actually do anything on the ground. And two, the West Bank is already de facto annexed, and it has been for a very long time. Israel has controlled the West Bank completely for almost 70 years now. And even in Area A, which is supposed to be under Palestinian Authority, Israel practically has all the power. They control the checkpoints, they control the energy, they control the taxes, and whenever they want, they can just invade it with the army, as they often do. So de facto, we are living in a one apartheid state solution.
So that is independent journalist Andre explaining, what the details of this vote are and the relevant political context here. And I think it's important to understand what he says, which is, this idea that there's any sort of Palestinian sovereignty in the West Bank already is a mythology. And now they're just moving to, further codify and further entrench, and also to sort of round up support on the right, because there are these various contentious issues that have sort of divided the Likud, the majority governing party coalition. And so this is a way to bring everyone together, to really unify everyone around the idea of just outright stealing all of the West Bank.
What's also really funny, too, is that we forgot to mention the C3 pleas, that even the American Jewish Committee condemned Randy Fine. They said the serious humanitarian situation must not be taken lightly, implying that starvation is a legitimate tactic is unacceptable. All those should be need of humanitarian aid should receive it promptly and safely. Quote, our leaders must focus less on scoring political points and more on doing their jobs. Of course, they would, deny that this is actually even happening, and that they would probably put the blame like that on Hamas. But, the point still stands around all of this. This is the thing about the belligerence and the actions in Gaza, which are unforgivable, insane, backstopped by the U.S. government.
Yeah.
It's also part of this broader, greater Israel project, which conspiracy theorists have been talking about that for years. It's real now.
Yeah.
Gaza, Lebanon, Syria. This shit is real, guys. They're bombing Damascus. They're claiming an indefinite presence. They're annexing the West Bank. It's happening right now. Just this morning, Israeli ultranationalist minister, quote, all of Gaza will be Jewish. The government is pushing for Gaza being wiped out. Thank God we are wiping out this evil. We are pushing the population educated on Listen to this shit. We are wiping out the population.
Yep.
We will be Jewish. They say this shit out loud.
Yeah.
This is my always problem with America. We're all focused on, it's just listen, all right? We can all hit the Google Translate button. That's it. That's all it takes to actually see the stuff that they're saying on cable television in Israel and here as well. And it's just oh my God, you're genuinely watching this almost neo-colonialist project backstopped entirely by the American empire. For what possible purpose? You have the humanitarian and then the security situation. It would be different, I think, if this were, if this were two countries that were fighting of their own accord, that had their independent ability to inflict this type of horrificness on each other. That's one thing, right? And that calls for a tool set. But it's really another when you're selling people the technology, the bombs, giving them money to continue it, and then also using the full force of the empire to make sure that they bear no consequences for it.
Yeah.
Like the United States withdrawing from UNESCO or whatever, from the UN body, accusing them of anti-Semitism for talking about the humanitarian situation.
Right.
Right? I mean, that stuff really does matter.
And cracking down on the domestic population here
that's
over what we can say and do and who's allowed to get a college degree if you dared speak out against these absolute atrocities. And then I can't let this go. I was looking at the New York Times front page, and on the one hand, okay, they're covering the fact that people are starving to death. But there is still no culpability assigned. I mean, first of all, this is not getting remotely enough coverage throughout the press. And as I said before, they're way more fixated on like how hard Zoran will condemn this or that particular phrase or what some rally chant was or whatever. Here's their headline. Gazans are dying of starvation. Severe hunger has gripped the war-torn Palestinian enclave, where growing numbers of people are starving and the doctors treating them are working on empty stomachs. Guess what's not mentioned there? The fact that it's Israel who is starving them. And as you read through this, it takes to paragraph 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It takes till like the 10th paragraph before the word Israel is even mentioned. I mean, it's a parody at this point. And I know you guys have seen probably the way that, the headlines are like barely English to have these passive, weird phrase constructions to avoid assigning blame. Imagine it was Russia that was starving Ukraine. Do you think that the New York Times would have a hard time figuring out how to phrase that headline, how to cover that story, how to talk about it in the clear, moral, and factual terms that are justified? Of course not. Of course, it would not be any sort of an issue there. And so, look, the situation is dire enough that they feel that they have to cover it. It is, the top of their website right now. But even so, severe hunger grips Gaza. Grips as if that just happened out of nowhere, as if it's some sort of natural disaster, unavoidable calamity. It's just unbelievable at this point. It's just unbelievable.
Yeah, it's sick. I don't think there's really another word for it.
Yeah, exactly.
Can we put C6 up there on the screen? I mean, look, warning, images, this shit's hard to see. Quote, we faced hunger before, but never like this. Skeletal children fill hospital wards as starvation grips Gaza. Ryan made a great point whenever him and I did the show, is that the timeline laid out by these food organizations has been almost exactly correct.
That's right.
It takes about 60, 70 days to starve to death. 60, 70 days ago, they were like, hey, people are going to starve to death if there's not a change in the status quo.
Yeah.
Here we are. I don't know. At this point, I know there's some potential movement or whatever on a ceasefire, but considering what's happened in the previous ceasefires, like, they're not dying of bullets at this point. Right? You're dying of severe malnutrition. Even in those previous ceasefires, it's not like there was a ton of humanitarian aid, that got into Gaza. So there's no, and also, once you get to the severe malnutrition, you're rife for disease, type, whatever. A mere cold can take you out.
Yeah, and
when
you
you're
get
that
to a
depleted.
certain point too, where it's not just like, okay, there's food of it. You need specialized treatment, and the ones who are dying the most rapidly, it's these infants, it's these babies. The mothers are too weak to breastfeed. They're dependent on formula. There's no formula. I mean, you have a baby at home. Like,
yeah, I know.
You can't.
And my
really
kid is sick,
can't.
and my wife is sick. So I literally and we're living in the most developed country in the world with access to food and all of that. And this shit's still hard. So you put yourself in that situation.
I genuinely can't even really fully go there because I cannot even imagine that level of horror, and that's what's happening.
Hey, if you like that video, hit the like button or leave a comment below. It really helps get the show to more people.
And if you'd like to get the full show ad-free and in your inbox every morning, you can sign up at breakingpoints.com.
That's right. Get the full show, help support the future of independent media at breakingpoints.com.